Hello friends, welcome to episode 182 of the Noclip Crewcast. We're back with a full crew. I have returned. Vive la France. Thanks for holding down the show, Jesse, last week. It was fun to listen to the podcast as I wandered in and out of sleep. Not because the podcast is very entertaining, but because I was flying my ass back from Europe. Nothing Noclip related, really. Just a bit of family time and a little bit of secret tape work. But it was a good old time. What is your favorite country in Europe, Jesse?
Ooh, Greece. I'd love to go. It looks beautiful and the food's great.
Wow. Big fan of democracy, Jesse Garasha.
Right.
Jeremy Jane, what about you? If you could visit any country in Europe, I know you've been to Europe. If you could visit any country now you've never been. So we're saying no Poland, no England.
Oh man.
No, where else? Denmark, Amsterdam. I'm trying to think of all the other places we filmed.
No France.
No France, you're right.
Oh boy,
What's left?
Takes a lot of options off the menu. I've always wanted to go to Italy.
Okay.
Italy seems cool to me. Yeah, mostly I'm just a fat boy at heart. I just want to go eat my way through Italy.
Yeah, I remember everyone. I've only been there once, and then everyone was like, "Oh my god, you'll never, everything tastes so good." And I was like, "Yeah, whatever, like stuff." And it's like really annoying because like everything does taste better there.
That's great to hear. I'm so glad.
Have like crack in them or something. I don't know what it is because even like
it's tobacco from the
it is tobacco. God, that's it. Frank Howley. I'm trying to think of a tobacco reference or retirement Greece or something like that. Oh, Greece. Well, Jesse said Greece. Greece and Italy are off the table. What is the one country you'd like to visit in Europe?
I haven't been to England, and I have a few friends who live in London, so legitimately, like that's the kind of only thing. It's still very far from Japan. It's not even close to Europe, but that's the only thing.
In the
that's
opposite
ever on my
direction.
mind. Yeah.
Frank's favorite country in Europe is Japan.
It's closer to maybe.
What's the most Japanese? Is there a Japantown in any country in Europe? I'm trying to.
That should
struggle.
be. Yeah.
There's not much of a Japanese thing in England anyway.
I feel like a lot of Studio Ghibli stuff takes inspiration from Europe. Like I feel like all the villages and stuff they explore, like even like Kiki's Delivery Service, I feel like is a very European aspect.
Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Setup. There you go. Well, maybe we'll make that happen in the not too distant. You are coming to Europe with me in September, but it's not there. It's up in the wilds of the north. All of our friends are Battle Pass holders. Some of them are from Europe. Decide which one you think is the most European name from all of these. Eamon Slattery. That's a good start. Yeah. Harry Flanagan. Battle Royale Games. Arno. Richard Matherson. James Brown. Mark Rojas. Ryan Cobb. Tucker Morgan. Crimson Cyclist. Sven Hooster. I wonder. Pez. Ewint Nate. Tim Robinson. Forrest Pruitt. Jonathan Kremen. Eric Hamilton Schneider. Emmerlaird, Zachary Snader, Alex Sharp, Alex Goucher, George Sikotis, Jacob Godserve, Tohir Tiliev, and Ryson. What are we thinking?
I'm going Battle Royale Games for most European names.
Royale Games. It's got to be Eamon Slattery or Sven Hooster. Those are both.
Yeah, but Battle Royale Games does sound, maybe it's Yiddish for something. I don't, it's hard to tell. It could be an old Hungarian name. That's
true.
That's the thing. You dive deep enough into these surnames and you come out with the weirdest little explanations for them. But we're not here to do that. We're not here to do surname
phrenology.
Phrenology. Whoa.
Put the calipers on these names and see where they fall.
See where they land. We're here to talk about video games. And you know what? I'm just going to take the segue and use this to talk about a game that takes place in Europe with lots of regional accents. Still Wakes the Deep, I want to talk about. Has anyone else played this?
No, I heard it was very good though.
I heard about this when I was I was talking to somebody about something. I think I was talking to somebody about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, because that is now being developed, but it was taken off Hardsuit Labs. We don't know what's going on over there or what's going on with the publisher, or, we obviously covered when Brian Mitsoda was taken off the project as well. We actually interviewed him about Bloodlines years ago at this stage, about 5 or 6 years ago. But the Chinese room is the developer who is now working on Bloodlines 2, I believe. They, of course, I don't know if they're most famous for Dear Esther. That was sort of like the first one, I guess. They've also made games like Amnesia, Machine for Pigs, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. And yes, according to this website I have in front of me, which is wikipedia.org, they are working on Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. The game I'm talking about is Still Wakes the Deep, which came out June 18th, so last week. And I don't know who was... I was with a bunch of journalists somewhere, and British ones too, actually a gentleman from Scotland, and he was saying, yeah, it's a horror game that takes place on basically like a North Atlantic oil, you don't call them rigs, what do you call them? Oil platform?
I think it's an oil rig.
I guess,
yeah. Right? Yeah. No? Okay.
And I'm going to be super vague about the antagonist and the thing of this as much as I can, but that's kind of what it is. It is if you've played their games in the past, you know, the term walking simulator was sort of like coined around the time Dear Esther was originally released, and this is to call it a walking simulator would absolutely be reductive, but it's an evolution of that. It is a very linear game. It is a game that takes place in first person. It's a game where your sort of movement and directionality, and in the case of this one, as you can imagine, it being somewhat of a horror game, how loud you're being or where you're looking, stuff like that. You don't have a big infantry. You don't have lots of objects or lots of choice. If immersive sim is on one end of the first person spectrum, then this is not at the other end of it, but it's 80% of the way to the other end of it. What it has going for it is a fantastic setup, a really good antagonist, a great cast. The voice acting is through the roof. This is, if you are into regional British accents, this is porn. It is. I love it. I turned off the subtitles immediately because I was like, this is so funny. They're not only putting subtitles here, but they're also translating a lot of like idioms, British idioms, because there's guys from Northern Ireland here, there's folks from Scotland, north of England, like all over the place. If you grew up in the British Isles like I did, these are all accents you're very used to. There's lots of weird little specific region-specific things they say. Like, this is the first time in a video game I've heard somebody call someone else a numpty. And that is like a very Northern Irish, sort of, I think maybe they say it in Scotland too, type of thing, and it was great. It has the world's weirdest bug, which is that if you turn off the subtitles, in the next level they just come back on. And apparently this is a problem for everyone, and they still haven't patched it. They say they're going to patch it. Maybe they're terrified of ruining everyone's save games. I don't know, but there's a big Reddit thread where people are like, "Oh fuck it, this is," because the levels aren't that long, so you're kind of, it's been 5 minutes later, and you have to go and turn the bloody subtitles off again. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It takes place on this oil rig. There's mad shit going on. There's a specific. I almost don't want to. I don't want to say it, but there is a specific. Like, if I mentioned a media property, you would immediately go. You would understand what the antagonist is and the type of horror that it's presenting. I don't want to do it. I feel like people should go play this game without knowing any of that. But it's really good, and it's super creepy. It's like the shit that you see in this game is gnarly. It's cool, and that's what's bringing me along, is I want to see how fucked up this thing gets.
When it gets into, because obviously, like, I feel like this is the type of game where the beginning you're just kind of like walking around and talking to people and stuff, but when it gets going and the horror starts pumping, can you talk about game mechanics without spoiling?
Yeah.
Like, is it kind of or is it run and hide horror? Is that kind of thing?
It is. It's kind of like a mixture of like it feels like, Amnesia is a good. Amnesia almost feels like it's maybe a bit. There's maybe more mechanic. It's been a while since I played that particular Amnesia as well, which actually was a really good one. The one they did. You're doing a lot of. Okay, so you can pick up objects and you can throw them to distract enemies. Making a noise basically somewhere. They have a lot of these. So it takes place in, like, I think it's 1975, and there's great nostalgia in this for me, because like the way it's like the Chinese room are based in somewhere in the UK. I'm not exactly sure. Portsmouth, it says here. Oh no, the headquarters are in Brighton. So there's like, you know, the TV screen looks like the BBC dead TV screen when the channels turned off, you know, back when channels turned off. The radio updates on the weather sound exactly like they did when I was a kid. The linoleum and the materials of this oil rig look really like that, era specific. And one of the things they have is these do you remember the thing the kids hid in Jurassic Park when the raptors were in the kitchen? It was like that sort of, it's like a steel container that they crawled in, and you can crawl in and around and out of it, kind of like a C shape. You know, you go in one and you come out the other. There's loads of those in it as well. So you're sort of crawling around in these rooms, getting in them, trying to break line of sight, trying to throw something so that something goes over there, and then moving to get past them. So it's simple stuff like that. I'm only maybe, I think it's like a 4 or 5 hour game. I'm about 2.5 hours into it. So, you know, the mechanical variety and the enemy variety and the story has been, or I guess the locational variety, because sometimes is really good, because sometimes you're in like, you know, these very claustrophobic, as you can imagine, you know, more mechanical parts of the rig. Sometimes you're in like the place where people would live and cook and socialize. Sometimes you're underneath the rig and like the sort of the gantries that are hanging over the water, and you're doing a lot of like they have ladders and things you climb on, and the game is for people who hate the things that are painted yellow. You climb on. This is maybe the worst offender I have ever seen. This, like, it is absurd how much yellow, and like I think people overreacted to that a little bit with like games like Horizon Zero Dawn, because the levels are really busy and you kind of need a little bit of a signal as to what you can climb on. This game is just ridiculous. like almost 100% of things that you would need to jump or climb from have some degree of yellow paint or just yellow steel. But yeah, you're doing, there's a cool mechanic, Jeremy, where you press right click to climb on stuff. So if you're climbing down a ladder, you're holding right click, and if you let go, it'll sort of like jump off the ladder. And sometimes you lose grip on stuff and you have to hold left click, and so it creates this sort of like, you're thinking, don't let go. You know what I mean? Like you're in your brain, you're thinking, keep those buttons pressed in the same way that if you were sort of in peril climbing on something, you just hold on, you know what I mean? And you try not to slip or let go or whatever. So there's cool moments like that as well, which are, you know, a gameplay mechanic. But again, a lot of this stuff so far has been very linear.
Yeah, I feel like with horror games, it's so much about atmosphere anyway, that it's like some of my favorite horror games of all, like I wouldn't go back and be like Silent Hill 1, it's got the shooting is so tight. It's just like, it's just about being there and being like freaked out in the atmosphere and stuff anyway. So
yeah, and in a game like this that's like mechanically not all that interesting, but has so much else going for it, I don't want to have to replay a level either. So I kind of get that, you know, like there was one early enough encounter where I got killed a couple of times, but it was still interesting. At least it wasn't like I wasn't like banging my head going like, oh fuck, you know. Whereas I feel like there's some games like this where if I don't immediately get past level, I'm like, all right, I guess I'm not enjoying this game because I don't want to replay this level or replay this part. The checkpoints are very forgiving. It's Unreal Engine, and when I first loaded into it, I felt there was something weird in my head about the motion blur. The motion blur, I think it was because I was in a tight room. They start you in like your tight cabin, and when you're moving the mouse around, it doesn't feel great. And I went through all the different, they have like a million different versions of you know, sort of upscaling tech that you can select from. In fact, when the game boots, it basically shows like NVIDIA and blah blah blah, and all the different types of ones that you can use. Their logos pop up. So I went through a bunch of them, and then in the end I just went, oh fuck it, I'll just go back to the first one. I'll probably get used to it. And I think it's not as bad when you're in the open air, when you're in a bigger area, I think. But to that point, the fidelity of the graphics are really impressive. Like it's not quite Indica levels of, you know, facial animation and that sort of stuff, but it's up there. And I think, and the art direction is great. Like, I really think the colors they use, the design of the rig is fantastic. Again, the era specific nature of it. I've never played a game in this place, but this is a place that I'm very familiar with from both living and growing up in, Ireland in the 90s, and the British Isles in the 90s, and visiting other parts of the British Isles. And also, like, a lot of British TV is set in the 70s. Like, there was a lot going on. Obviously, Thatcherism and is something that is still like a day-to-day of life in Britain, and the political reality of it. And there's a lot of that kind of going on. They're talking a lot about issues, about unionization, about stuff like that feel very like, oh, that's how I remember those conversations. That's how I remember that time, even though I wasn't alive in the 70s, mid 70s. And that's cool. Like, it's really interesting to see a game set in an unique, not just place, but setting. And I think I'm getting a lot of that. And I'm not talking about the antagonist, but what they have done is great. It is super fucked up. It is like interesting and body horror-ish and weird and gross and cosmic and fucked. and I think that's the reason I'm enjoying it the most. That, and just like everyone on this rig, the voice acting, the scripts are great. You're picking up a lot of telephones and talking to people. You're also meeting characters in the world, and everyone's fucking like, what is going on? And this is messed up, and we need to get to the boats, or we need to get to the helicopter, or what are we going to do? And you're sort of frantically running around this rig. Like, you're never more than 5 minutes away from what your next thing is supposed to be. And then something messed up happens, and you're like, oh, we gotta go do this now. I'm really, I think it's a really like well delivered game. A lot of, because I've said the word walking simulator now, and I feel like I've opened Pandora's box maybe in some people's heads. A lot of those games have very slow sort of stories you have to listen to. And that's not what this is. This plays like an action game. This is a game where it is grabbing you by the shoulders and going, you gotta fucking go. Something weird's gonna happen, or it just happened, or you're getting chased by this thing. And there's a lot of, you don't want to turn around in this game. The sound design is fantastic as well. You're getting chased in some of these sequences, and it's just like it feels like you can, they're breathing on your neck hairs. It's absolutely rancid. I love it.
Nice. Did you
Sounds
finish
awesome.
this? Is it short? Is it?
No, I'm only 2.5 hours in. Maybe I just got back from France like 2 days ago, so it was the first thing I booted up, and I've played a bit of it. I think it's only, so I think on how long to complete, it was somewhere between 5 and 6 hours.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, and I forget how much it cost. I need to have a little look at that.
I think it's $34.99, but I did on Steam. It's on PS5. But the biggest thing, it's on Xbox Game Pass. It's on Xbox Game Pass. So I'm very excited.
Do it. Get it done.
You talking about it reminded me of like there's two. It's an oil rig, not a ship, but there's two games that take place on ships that are first person that I love. Like there's Resident Evil 7 has like a whole section that's on a ship that's fucked up. So that gives me that vibes. And then Return of the Obra Dinn is your an insurance investigator on a ship, but that is cosmic horror. So I don't know if this is anywhere in that territory.
You know what's the one as well that it came up a couple of months ago. Do you remember there was that PC Resident Evil knockoff?
Cold Fear?
Yes.
I was trying to remember that. I kept coming up with Cold Storage because we just did the Wipeout doc, and I was like, it's not Cold Storage, but it's something like that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That sounds cool.
I also want to point out, and maybe Jesse, you can put this in the in just a link to the Chinese Room's YouTube channel. They only have about 2,500 subscribers, but they have produced a bunch of mini docs about the development of this game.
Cool.
Which they're like sort of 5-minute little ones. There's like 7.5 minutes on audio here. The blueprint of the design of the rig. There's like a 5-minute video. So they're discreet and they're small, but they look really well produced, and they don't have that many views on them. And obviously, this is absolutely right up the alley of our listeners and our viewers on YouTube. So I might do a little YouTube link as well on the channel, just to point people towards them once I've given them a watch, obviously. But yeah, they look like they're well put together. And honestly, I probably won't watch them until I'm done, because
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those games.
They'll show you the cool final enemy, and you'll be like, "Oh man, I shouldn't have watched Doc." Oh.
They're like, yeah, and then when we came up with the ending, we were like, it's got to be this. You're like, Jesus.
We were like
Margaret
space
Thatcher's
vampires,
corpse?
No. We're just exactly.
Yeah, and then Margaret Thatcher pops out.
Yeah.
And she's the antagonist the whole time.
Yeah, it was exactly that's what
They pull off the Scooby-Doo mask, and it's Margaret Thatcher.
I would have got away with it. Exactly. She's a literal iron lady. She comes out of the water, just made of iron, and smashes the rig to pieces. Great little game. Still Wakes the Deep, available for about $35 on Steam, or for free if you are paying Microsoft a monthly subscription on that. Game Pass. It's also on PlayStation 5. Presumably, you just play for it on PlayStation 5. There you go. Genre on Wikipedia is horror walking simulator, which I find quite funny. That is actually a legitimate genre, but there we go. Jeremy Jane, you have been, it's been hot out there here in California. We're in the middle of some pretty hot weather, and you have been taking shelter under the shadow of the Erdtree.
Nice.
The game's so hard that only journalists can complete it, and everyone else has to downvote it on Steam. They have just patched the game so it's easier.
I know.
I have been having lots of fun texting Tamor Hussein, who beat this game during Summer Game Fest. Apparently he beat the final boss in 3 goes, and as some folks who have over the years suffered the gamer stain of journalists don't know how to play video games, I found this week particularly funny when it comes to From Software's latest game. That said, though, it does sound like it is falling in the shadow of other From Software DLCs, in that it is fucking difficult. That's what I've heard. Jeremy Jane, how has your experience been with Shadow of the Erdtree, especially as you are a noted DLC denier? You do not do this dance.
This is the first time I have ever. This is the second DLC I've ever played in my life, but it is the first DLC I've ever purchased, because the only other one I've ever played was the Cuphead Delicious Last Course DLC, and I did not purchase it, which I feel like absolves me of any responsibility. I merely partook of another person's copy of it.
It's like the Utah teenager who's still a virgin because they only did anal.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Delicious Last Course was my Mormon anal.
Delicious Last Course that's my favorite.
That's what they call it in Utah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I've been playing Shadow of the Erdtree, which I've been erroneously referring to as Shadows of the Erdtree. It's only one shadow. A tree cannot cast multiple shadows.
It depends how many suns there are, I guess. Yeah. Or it's on fire. If it's on fire, then it's casting fucking loads of shadows.
There's also magic in this world, so anything is on the table. But
true.
Regardless, this is my first, not only my first DLC, my first FromSoft DLC. Like, so many new frontiers are being reached through this for me. I think it's fantastic. I was I went into it very skeptical, because my fear with DLC is not only that it will feel like sort of an afterthought, not in terms of production value or level design or anything like that, but in terms of like, what's the Bennett Foddy game? Getting Over It. And Getting Over It by Bennett Foddy. There's a line in the VO that he does where he talks about 3D assets that are on like the asset stores that people buy to put in games. And he says that they're kind of, once they go on the asset store, they're like food that's been in the sink, where it's like a second ago it was food and now it's like disgusting garbage. Even if it hasn't like touched anything, like it's on a plate and it's clean, as soon as the food is in the sink, it's fucking gross. And I was afraid that because there are assets in this that are like from the base game. Like, you'll go into a place and be like, oh yeah, I remember this from Carrion Manor, or like, I've seen a boss use that spell before. And at first I was like, am I going to have the Bennett Foddy response? Is this food in the sink? And I am pleased to announce that it transcends that so hard that I like totally forgot I was playing DLC. Like, I was worried that I would constantly be viscerally aware of that fact and be like, this is just extra. It totally has its own identity. So Shadow of the Erdtree is it is an open world like the base game of Elden Ring, but it is a totally separate, disconnected open world.
Okay.
You like access it through a point. You go into the realm of shadow, I think it's called, and yeah, it's just another open world, smaller than the base game, obviously, but fucking huge. Like it's still really large.
Does it do the map thing, or do you kind of get all the map?
It does do the map thing. Yeah.
We love the map thing.
It was a delicious sensation for me to open that map, and it was just all gray. And then you get the first little map token, and you're like, oh, what is that? What's that over there? I gotta go check that. Like it was awesome. I don't even really like open world games either, but I just like exploring, which those two things sound like they're kind of contradictory, but yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like open worlds don't have things that are worth exploring, and this one does. Everywhere I go, there's like you just wander over and there's like a little graveyard, and then it's like, oh, there's a door here, and then like one of my favorite FromSoft boss fights is just like a throwaway optional boss fight in a little dungeon in the side of the map. But yeah, it's fantastic. The areas, like I said, I was worried about the recycling of assets, but some of the areas in this are, like they're up there with some of my favorite areas in other FromSoft games. They really have a strong identity and a strong presentation, and there are moments that are, I don't want to say like equal to, because Elden Ring had such an initial punch, but like in Elden Ring, no spoilers, but like there's an underground area in Elden Ring, and when you enter it, it is like fucking mind blowing. Like it's like
but yeah, sure.
Well, I mean,
it's been out a while.
Yeah, there's underground areas in a lot of FromSoft games, like the Tomb of the Giants or whatever. But the presentation of this one, particularly in Elden Ring, is very spectacular. And there were moments where I entered areas in the DLC, and I was like, whoa, like this, I can't believe this is here.
That's cool. That's cool.
So yeah, it's great. I am a little disappointed. I read the news about the patch this morning that makes the game easier.
Right.
It tunes up.
Yeah. What does it do? Is it boss fights or is it something else?
So there's a sort of new progression system in the DLC they're Erdtree fragments.
That's what it is, dude. Okay. I've been calling it the fucking Scaramouche tree. I'm like, I can't remember what it's called. The Skadoosh
Anthony Scaramucci tree. Yeah, so it's I'm not really 100% sure. The way I like to engage with FromSoft games is, I know a lot of people like to look up like, oh, you got to get this katana, you got to put this attachment on it, and you got to get this, you got to do this skill. It scales with dex, and like I'm like the Mr. Bean of FromSoft games. I just like bumble in there, and I'm like, I just don't know what's going on, and I swing my sword until they're dead, and then I'm like, I can't believe I'm still alive. So I like to I don't want to understand too much. I just want to be there. You know?
You don't want to gain too much of that, insight into the world, because then
you might unfurl some secrets,
exactly,
some cosmic secrets. Yeah. So there's Erdtree fragments. I'm probably saying that wrong. It's fun to say Skadoo. So I guess what I gather is, and apologies if this is slightly off the mark, but as far as I understand it, because people in the base game could have gotten to level 250 or whatever, and been super overpowered for this. I guess there is some sort of under the hood skill capping or like level scaling, something like that like peels the player back down so that everyone is kind of at an even playing field when they enter the DLC. And what I gather is that the Erdtree fragments are kind of like either, I know it's very funny. Every time I pick one up, I laugh. It's either like peeling back the scaling, or it's just like from that base level of scaled back, it's giving you kind of a power boost. So the patch today was it increased for the first half of the Erdtree fragments in the game. I guess the amount that it upgrades you was increased.
Okay.
Which is fine, but I will say that one of my favorite things about Elden Ring, the base game, was that I beat General Radon before they made him easier, and that's always been because I thought that was a really fun fight, and then they made it easier after, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a bummer, because I don't know, I don't want to get into the whole difficulty discussion, but
good.
Yeah, skill issue. Part of the appeal for me of these games is fucking the last boss of Sekiro. We just talked about it in the last podcast,
right.
Just sitting down for 6 to 8 hours and being like, I know this is possible and I will do it. And just running into that fucking being so familiar with the one staircase that leads to the boss that you're like, I fucking hate this staircase so much. And then when you overcome, it's this transcendent surge of dopamine.
Yeah,
so
it's the closest you can get to being in an anime. It's
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but that said, I will say that I found Elden Ring, the base game, to be quite ezy by FromSoft game standards,
right,
and the DLC, I mean, no big deal or whatever. Yeah, but I mean, I'm a little bit of a FromSoft connoisseur, but no, the DLC is actually I found it quite challenging.
Okay.
The
Can I ask, what's the pacing like on this? Is it similar to like encounter pacing? Is it similar to base game where you're doing like a decent amount of exploration before you get to a boss fight? I always feel like in DLCs they're a little bit more, there's a bit more boss fight for your vegetables. You know what I mean? You have a bit more encounters. Is it kind of that way or?
Yeah, it definitely has. I'm trying to think. It's been a while since I haven't played Elden Ring. Like I kind of just beat the game like the first few weeks after it came out, so it's been a couple of years now or whatever. It's probably a little bit denser in the DLC. It does feel like you're kind of constantly like you walk into the world and you're like, this is crazy, and then you kind of walk left a little bit, and there's just like a totally different, equally crazy thing there. So
it's like the small world version of Elden Ring.
Yeah, I was literally about to say it's like fucking Disney World where you're like, whoa, this is like I can't believe this ride.
And India's right next to you can walk right over.
Epcot is just looming over you as you're in the jungle land or whatever. And it has a little bit of that theme parky density to it. It's just I've just really been enjoying it. I'm curious how other people feel about this. So this is more addressed to people listening than you guys, because none of you have experienced this, obviously. But I do feel a little bit like some of the bosses are hard in a way that feels like they're tuned specifically to be beaten with summons, with like the spirit ashes that like you, and for people who haven't played Elden Ring, you can summon like little helpers and you collect different little helpers, and it's kind of a way to attenuate the difficulty. If there's a boss you're stuck on, you can use your mimic tier and
pop your jellyfish.
Yeah, exactly. You could have help from a friendly jellyfish. So there was a particular boss in this DLC that I was like, I at this point I was like, I'm not going to use summons for any of these bosses, and I hadn't, and I'd overcome all of them.
You're a madman.
And I like to be. I'm a video game masochist. I like hard games. I find it very satisfying to overcome them. And I got to one particular boss where I was like, I can do this. I learned its entire move set, like back to front. Like I could dodge every single move perfectly. And then it hit phase 2 of that boss, and I learned all those moves. And I found that it was physically impossible for me to dodge every move because they had like a 8-hit combo with like magic modifiers on it. And I was just like, I don't think this is for my build, for like I don't even think I could like
break from the aggro to like heal up or
like
not get hit as much.
It's the kind of thing with like FromSoft boss design is often that they will be very relentless, and then there will be a very brief window. And the trick to learning the boss is like learn where it's relentless in the dodge timing, and then learn where that window is to do damage. And for this particular boss, I felt like the window did not exist. And so I gave it like probably between 60 and 100 tries.
Jeez.
And I was like, I was curious. So like, I obviously have been going in blind. I didn't watch anyone else play it, but because I already knew that boss, I went to a streamer that I knew that had been playing the game, and I was like, just skipped to the boss and was like, are they using summons? Are they using magic? Like, is there something I'm totally like, is there a mechanic I'm not exploiting here? And they were using magic and summons. So, and they were still having a tough time with it. So I was like, I just caved and started using summons, but it was a little bit disappointing to me because even though I do like the summon system, I think there is something very satisfying about doing 100% of the damage yourself. Not because I'm like a fucking like stoic or like a crazy person or like a purist. It's just like when I watch my little guy go do damage for, like when my summon gets the killing blow, I'm like, bro, like, dude, go on, like you don't even exist.
Good job, bud. Good job, buddy.
No, it's like
that's
fun.
Why I brought you along.
I mean, I played like a necromancer in Diablo 2. Like I like having my own ads. I like being the raid boss sometimes, but in Souls games, sometimes I want to be the anime hero, like you said. So but it's a hard balance to strike. There's so many, as opposed to Sekiro, there's such a diverse range of builds you can have in a Souls game. Add on the summons to that, and it's just like tuning a boss for everyone to have a tough experience is like, it's a totally impossible task. So, but I'm having a great time. It's a really, really good DLC. Highly recommended.
I am still trying to get into it. I realized that there was one part that I hadn't done. I mean, I haven't completed Elden Ring yet. I still have, I put 50, 60 hours into that game. Still haven't done it. I have one half of the medallion to get into. I never got into I got into the mountaintop place and I did all that, but I never did it's like the frozen way, whatever, the one where there's a storm going on. I think it might be the like top middle of the map.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I never got into that, and I'm missing the half that is a boss fight that is in the castle right at the top of the mountaintop area. You have to fight some guy called Seamus or something.
Oh yeah, that's a crazy fight too.
Yeah,
that one is so tight and so frenetic.
Yeah, and those fucking he pops those two guys at the top, and I'm like, oh man, they both want to go for me at the same time. So I don't know. I'll do it. I'm just. It was one of those things where I literally couldn't remember like where this. I was like looking for my inventory for the summoning bell, and I was like, what button do you press? Like I couldn't remember fuck all about the game. So I'll hopefully get in and be
You'll
able
get there.
to.
It takes time to warm up to it. I mean, I had to look up where the access point was to that zone, and I've done that zone and beat that boss. Oh,
right.
So
okay.
it just takes time. But like with the Sekiro thing, it's like took 3 years off and then started again on the final boss from scratch, and it's like it comes back to you eventually.
Nice. Speaking of Sekiro, Jesse, you've been playing some Sekiro.
Yeah, I've been secking it up.
Yes.
It's
Wow.
after last week, Jeremy.
Second down.
I'm second it down. No, it's really good. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Jeremy Jane had a good recommendation to play a good video game. What
It's hardly a fucking. It isn't exactly an outside.
No, he's
I feel
the
like
first
much
person
of
to
the
come up
internet
with
probably
it.
told.
No one's ever talked about it before. No,
Little gem I found at the thrift store.
You just honestly, you know what it is? You reminded me that it existed. Like that week we did the podcast, and before that we did the crew
I think
video.
I did. I think
Oh
I was
yeah, during
saying,
the crew video, the week before when we were talking about Sekiro and
You talked about what game was it you were talking about, and I was like,
Flintlock.
Flintlock. You were like, oh, I'd love to play a Soulsborne ninja game, and I was like, well, let me tell you about this
have you ever
little
heard about
known
this
game
one?
called Sekiro.
I think it's just it doesn't register to me as a FromSoft game because it doesn't say Souls anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It doesn't say Souls,
And
or
it's so
Born,
different from Souls games as
Bloodborne?
well.
and it's very different. Yeah, or Born.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. Yeah, so it didn't clock for me. But I finally have played it. I'm like 3 hours in. It's really fucking good. Can you believe it? Holy shit! It's.
What are you enjoying about it?
It has really good combat. I like the parrying a lot, but I think the thing that made me go, oh, okay, this isn't just a good game where you're a samurai or a shinobi or whatever. The grapple hook in Sekiro is so fucking sick. Oh,
It's really
my
fun.
God. Because like, it's not just like you grapple hook on it. Like it's a specific point based thing. If you haven't played Sekiro, third person action game, it's like a Souls or a Bloodborne, whatever. You cut things with your swords. There's no blocking. You can parry, you can cut things. You've got this arm that you find pretty quickly after the sort of tutorial area that replaces your current arm. You have a prosthetic one, and you can use it with different tools. And the first one you find is a grapple hook, and you can like grapple hook on a shit, and like it feels amazing. It feels as good as like grapple hooking as Spider-Man. And the reason I find it so exciting, the grapple hook and the way that I like use it in combat, I started calling this Spider-Man Samurai. Like that's just what it feels like. Because in the middle of combat, I feel like when I'm playing other Souls games, and this goes to what I was saying with Flintlock, when I'm playing other Souls games, I feel very restricted in movement. There's a lot of like options with weapons. If you want to fight faster, if you want to run around a little bit more, it's all there. But I really always feel like I'm like a shopping cart in a big arena with like a weapon, and however fast the weapon is however fast I attack. But in Sekiro, man, you go. You want to be up here, you're up there. There's a guy like every combat encounter, if it's a large enough arena with enough enemies, it doesn't feel overwhelming because you have so many movement options to get out of whatever tricky situation you're in. So if you've got guys with like whatever, bayonet, pistols, guns, I don't know, shooting you from a distance, and you've got like guys with samurai swords trying to hit you, you can be like, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm out, baby. And like you just swing up to a branch and start fighting guys, and you just start parrying. It's like, I think we said last week, it feels like an anime. I hadn't even played it yet, bro. This is like the most anime video game. Those other games that are literally anime video games don't even match the feeling that this one gives you. 1/100th of a chance. I'm like, I love being 5 years behind on good video games. Thank goodness I'm finally playing Sekiro. And it runs great on Steam Deck too, which is nice to be able to play that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting you bring up like the heft and the weight of Souls games typically, and how Sekiro is so quick and agile and you're so mobile in it, because it never really occurred to me until you said that's part of the brilliance of the posture system, of the like poise breaking system. Because if you beat the shit out of a boss and you get their poise bar like halfway done, and then you're like, you need a breather and you back off, there's like a ticking time bomb where it's like, don't take too much time. It's like you can move anywhere you want as fast as you want, but there is time pressure to stay in close with the enemy. It's an interesting way of giving you the mobility that you don't have in a lot of Souls games, and still having that pressure and heft and like tension.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the focus as well on the lack of blocking and the I mean, the enemies, I feel like in Sekiro, the base enemies even hurt you more than they do in other Souls games. Like they take off more damage. So it's just a different, like, sort of, you have to, the game, I feel like pretty quickly teaches you that you have to stay in there. You have to, like, kind of, especially in the boss fights, like you can't, you have to, like, I feel like in a lot of Souls games, I can spend more time avoiding or something, or like eke them down, but they're just so fast and big, a lot of them are in Sekiro, that it's I don't know, I feel like you really need that's a game that was the hardest Souls game until, well, actually maybe it still is, I think. Jeremy, what do you make of that? Do you find it to be the hardest one? Or
I think
a lot of people don't like Bloodborne because of the gun parry stuff, that they feel like they can't get the timing right, but
I mean, I beat Bloodborne with barely using the gun parry ever. I never really like parry in Souls games anyway. Like I've done shield builds before, and even then didn't do any parrying or whatever. I feel like Sekiro, it's probably the hardest, but I feel like it's also the fairest in its difficulty, because it overcomes that thing I was talking about with the Elden Ring DLC, where it's like, because there's such a diverse range of builds, it's hard to design a boss for every possible build. Sekiro, there's kind of only one build, and so it feels like when it's difficult, it is so finely tuned that you know that, like, this is a combat puzzle that is solvable, that there is like there is a right solution. That's not to say there's only one way to beat every boss in Sekiro or whatever, but every time I walk into a hard situation, I know that it's not because I'm using the wrong weapon, I'm not using the wrong spells, it's not because I didn't summon, it's just because I forgot that he does that. I forgot that this is unblockable. I forgot that, like, this is going to happen in phase 2. It always feels like it's, I mean, that's what people like about Souls games in general, is that they feel when you die, it's like, that's on me. Like I did something wrong, and next time I'll do better. And Sekiro feels like it heightens that so much, where it's like, I know exactly what to do next time.
Yeah, that's the vibe I'm getting while fighting some of the regular enemies, some of the bigger ones. There's like this big guy who's attached to this wooden fence that you find pretty early on, and he just like swings wildly at you and kicks you. He does like big WWE drop kick moves, and he's challenging, but like challenging in a way where you're like, okay, I just got to wait for him to do the startup animation for this attack, get out of the way. It's been a really fun experience. I'm excited to play more of it. The other thing that I really like about it, outside of the grappling hook, and also I think the grappling hook allows this, is, I think Frank mentioned this last week, that it was sort of Tenchu inspired, right? It was more like stealth game inspired Sekiro. And the verticality you get in this one, it's obviously not as like open world vertical as Elden Ring is, but the amount of climbing you do, not just to get out of the way, but also like to observe the area and to do stealth kills, feels like really fun. Like the sort of thing, like this game, when I started playing it, it popped up Activision on the screen. I forgot they published it, and I was like, if this didn't pop up in the US, in Japan, From Software published it there,
and Europe,
probably. But yes, if I didn't see the Activision logo, honestly, if I didn't know it was From Software, I'd probably think like it was like an Activision B game that got way too much money. It's really impressive. It just has like that From Software polish to, like Jeremy was saying, polish to all the combat so far. I'm excited to see more of it. I saw a really cool boss that I won't spoil, but it's just a cool moment. It was great. Get to do stealth around that. But yeah, you feel so much polish in basically everything you're doing, and it's so cool to play a game that is clearly has Souls in its DNA, but is presenting as something different and faster and more, I don't know, more my speed.
In fairness, I think all of the games are different. I think that's what I like about how From Software have, like, they've obviously created their own little subgenre.
Yeah.
But like, each of the Dark Souls has its own. Obviously, Bloodborne was a really big departure for people, and it is really cool that, like, I think Jeremy was saying about builds as well. That's kind of the thing that does stick out now that I think about it with this one in particular, is that you are kind of just playing the game they made. They were like, you're just gonna be this one dude. That's really awesome. It's 2019. It's wild. It took I guess they had Dark Souls 3 in between that and Bloodborne. Nice one. It's available on Steam it's still $60, I guess,
It's worth it. It's like, God, the last thing I want to say about Sekiro is just that it is so crazy to me, because you said every Dark Souls game is kind of slightly different. To me, it feels like Demon Souls, all the Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, they all feel like they are slight variations on the same theme. Even Bloodborne, which is probably the most different of those. Sekiro it's the craziest thing about it to me is that FromSoft was like, what if we invented like another one of the greatest combat systems ever? It is absurd to me that the level of quality that they can like reinvent themselves and do another thing that is like I don't know. I'm hesitant to say it one-upped Dark Souls because Dark Souls are like my favorite games of all time. But after beating Sekiro recently, I'm like, this might be the best combat system ever in a game ever that I've ever played. It's crazy.
Nice. And good on Steam Deck, as it turns out. Another game that's good on Steam Deck, according to Frank Howley, is Hades 2. That's what you've been playing on Steam Deck. How is your Hades 2? Keep being mindful of Jeremy's
Sure.
spoiler freeness. How have you been enjoying Hades 2? And also you have Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble down here. That's not on
That's
Steam
more
Deck,
important. We should be talking about that personally.
That's on Switch. Yeah, I guess Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble is the newest Super Monkey Ball game by Studio RGG, the Yakuza team.
Really?
It's the guy.
God!
The guy who created Yakuza directed the Monkey Ball games.
Wait, have they made all of them
back in the day? Yeah, I don't know if they. Yeah, I'm assuming. I don't know because I know they did a bunch of in between ones. Like I think if there's a Wii version, there's Banana Blitz. There's
Banana Blitz. God, I love the fucking monkey puns.
Yeah, the newest one is Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. It's exclusively on Switch, but it's the first one in a while where it's all new stages because they put out like a one on PS5 and Switch, a bunch of consoles like a few years ago that was like a compilation of all the Monkey Ball stages. But this one now is 200 new levels and there's 10 different worlds. Each world has a unique theme. And then if you beat those 10 worlds, then you unlock like the EX mode, which the stages get harder. I haven't gotten there yet. I think I'm by like the 9th world. But yeah, it's funny with this week, both the things I've been playing the most have just been portable games just in my bed. It's been hot. I've been like irritable and tired. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm lazy where I don't even want to get up and turn on my TV, turn on a console. But so the two games I've been playing on are both very hyper specific on like micro goals. So like, yeah, with Monkey Ball, you can do a level and sometimes I'll beat it in 10 seconds. Sometimes it'll take me 10 minutes or longer to like nail it. And then if you want to, you can try to find every level has a golden banana. It's like finding the secret tape on every stage or collect all the bananas or whatever. And like, I mean, it's a Monkey Ball game. So it's the same thing in the genre of like, there's like Marble It Up or Marble Blast Ultra, all those types of. It's a marble like it's a whatever. I just like these games. They're like the perfect arcade little pick up and play game. So as a Switch game, it's perfect because you can do a few stages and then put it to sleep or pick it up. Extremely cute. You can even customize your little monkey. So I have the monkey has a little black hat and a little Hawaiian shirt on. Like it looks just like me. There's a Sega Pass like expansion thing, which I didn't get, but in that you can play as all the Sonic characters. I think they added.
How did you not get that? That seems like it's a Frank Howley special right there.
Yeah, I think what I heard is not all the characters available yet. It's like a season pass thing, so they're rolling it out. But at Summer Games Fest, I did get to play as Sonic, and he went so fast. It was very cool. Yeah, it's Super Monkey Ball. It's great. It works. Also, like the biggest thing too I was reflecting on is like. The controls have to be precise and tight because it's such a, like micro, you could be just so off on a goal by just barely touching it. But the controls feel good, even playing it on the portable version, the resolution, everything works well. The unique mechanic here with Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble is if you hold B, you can do like it, you charge up like not like a jump. The last one had a jump. This one has like a dash. So you can like be rolling and then charge up and then you go super fast. So you can like try to break stages to jump so far ahead or screw yourself off or jump. So it's like, that's interesting. I mean, I bet as you get into the EX stages, you have to use that mechanic in clever ways to like get it. But even to get golden bananas, you have to jump off the levels and things like that. So it's really fun. And now I haven't tried it, but there is also multiplayer stuff with this. So there is like a Fall Guys like mode where it's like you can have up to 16 players online and try to do races and a bunch of little modes. Like even back in the day on GameCube, my friends and I would play like they had a pool mode and things like that. So there is multiplayer here if you want to do online. But
is there local stuff at all?
There is. I think there's 2-player local. I think you can do. So I'm assuming there's split screen, but you can also do like the local. I'm thinking of like DS ad hoc local multiplayer for whatever. But yeah, so there's online multiplayer, local multiplayer. But yes, Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. It's only on Switch. I did wish it was on PS5 or other consoles, but yeah, I get Chivas. But that's the thing I'm working on is not worrying about the achievements. But yeah, Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. It's good. It's on Switch. It's out this week.
Nice. $50 on Switch or $70 for your digital version, which includes 6 Sega All-Stars. It does not say which 6 they are. What do we think it is? Sonic,
Amy, I think Tails, and then there's Beat from Jet Set Radio. I think they added a Streets of Rage character.
Ooh.
Okay.
And then I don't know what the 6th
Axel,
one is.
maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
The dwarf from Golden
Am I
Axe,
the only one who
probably.
didn't realize until
That was really good. I was thinking the same thing. I couldn't think of his name.
I never realized that the ball that the monkey is in is a gachapon ball until this
Yeah.
very
Oh
moment.
yeah, you're
yeah.
right. It
Yeah,
is.
that's the
It
bit.
never
That's a little,
occurred to
like-
me.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
right.
He's got the monkey ball.
Yeah.
You do. The monkey ball was inside him all the time. What have you got to report from the world of Hades 2 on Steam Deck, Frank?
Oh my god! I've been playing this until 3 a.m., falling asleep, and still doing one more run. And then I
Nice.
wake up the next morning and I pick it up and just keep going.
Just wake up with the
It's-
controller in your hand.
Yeah, like I still can't beat the last boss, but I'm getting so close. And it's one of those things where sometimes you'll have a lucky build that breaks the game, and
Right.
so it's really good. I think I mentioned it when they updated it because the game came out and then like a month later they added a new patch, and I think the coolest thing with that patch is like when you collect resources, you don't need to have the specific tool. You can gather resources with everything.
Oh,
so
okay.
that makes upgrading so much faster.
Oh, wow.
So now,
Okay. So
so
Interesting.
that makes it like way more productive if you're just doing runs. You can farm stuff way faster. So like
Because
I'm
you
at
have
the
to
point.
choose which tool to bring was the
Yeah.
problem, right?
Yeah,
so
and
you'd
that-
often
that-
be like, fuck, I didn't bring
Yeah.
my mine pick or whatever.
And it kind of sucks. So they patched it to where it's like, okay, you can still get it, but whatever tool you'll have, that will increase the rate of which those spawn. So if you
that's
bring a
cool.
pickaxe, then almost every room will have a thing to mine.
right, okay.
But if so that's helpful. I'm sure there's a bunch of other patch notes and stuff too, but that was the biggest one. But it's fun, and I've gotten to the point now where it's like, I think they did this in Hades 1 also. Like when you would go pick your weapon, there'd be one that's like, hey, if you use this weapon, we'll give you extra resources. So I think I've done probably like 40 to 50 runs now. So now I've gotten good with almost every weapon, and like because the weapons this one are different. There's some weird ones that are like, what the hell? What is this? But now it's like, oh, I like every single one. And the one I almost beat the last boss with was like the last weapon, which I did not understand or like at all. But I had such a broken build with it that I'm like,
brilliant.
wait, this is kind of cool. So just recommending it. But yeah, when it comes to like Steam Deck games, it's perfect. It is so good. It's amazing. But yeah, specifically because like you can do a room in Hades in like a minute. So you can just turn on the Switch thing, turn on the Steam Deck and then do a room and put it down. Or I will just keep, like I had one moment where like, I think I came home from a bike ride and it was maybe like 11 p.m. and I was like, oh, I'm going to watch a movie, read, or maybe do some game capture. And then let me just pick up the Steam Deck. I put it down. It was 2:30 a.m. It like put me in hypnosis for 3.5 hours, and it's hard for me to focus on one thing for that long. So truly commendable, Hades 2. And maybe this is me putting out together. I can't wait for an update. I want more weapons. I want more things unlocked. But I know they're working hard on it. But even now in its early access state, I've probably put 20 plus hours into it. I love Hades 2. That is truly like the thing I've been hooked on for like a few weeks. I love it.
Good stuff. Hades 2 available in early access right now on Steam for the price of padding for time, $29.99. $29.99, man. They really are selling that game like hotcakes, I imagine. $29.99 is very, very reasonable. The last game we have to cover here is Destiny 2. I know the final shape came out recently, but Jesse, this is you jumping in for the first time, is it?
Yeah, I'm warping back 5 years. I'm catching up to all the things people said were good 5 years ago.
Before COVID.
Yeah, that's right.
Sort of like you blinked and you're like, wait.
I was working the whole
land
time.
before
Everyone who had
COVID.
free time was playing video games and having fun. Meanwhile, I was hawking booze. Destiny 2, the final shape is out now, and it's the highest reviewed Destiny 2 thing ever.
Yeah. People seem to be in on it.
Yeah, people who've played it a lot are like loving it, which is good because I've heard the last DLC or expansion was not what they were hoping for. So it's nice to see that this one is getting better reception. But I wanted to go check it out, one, because my buddy has been like dying to play it. But also I played the base game 4 years ago. I think I played it in 2020, just like on and off with another friend. And I had a good time with it from what I remember. The shooting's really good. It's a Bungie game. They know how to do shooting. The live service stuff, I could take it or leave it. But going to play this again, I don't want to knock it too much. But Destiny 2's new player experience might be like the most grueling experience I've ever had playing a video game. It is genuinely frustrating trying to play this game. Because like on the one hand, on the one hand, you could see all of the quality of it, right? Right away, you can see the environment design is gorgeous. Like everywhere you go is just dripping with this obvious love and artistry and everything. All the buildings, the backgrounds, the skyboxes, everything looks great. But then when you want to actually play the game, oh my God, you can't figure it out. There's the UI for Destiny 2 is like, it's thematically fitting. But the frustration for me came with like, you don't know how to start anything. We bought what's called the Legacy Collection. It has like 3 or 4 of the expansions that are still available. And you go to start it up, and like they don't tell you anything. Like you start the game, you're in the tutorial area, you learn how to shoot stuff, and they're like, I don't know, here's this tutorial. You can skip it if you want. I'm like, what do you mean I can skip it if I want? I don't want to play a game yet. And then like if you finish that tutorial, what do you start next? I don't know. It tells you to start Lightfall. That's the most obvious immediate thing, but that's the last expansion. There's like 3 more expansions narratively that I don't understand. So like there's like years of information that you're missing out on. So like I started it the first time, we were learning what was going on. The second time I started it, it started with a cutscene for the final shape of an expansion I don't own that opened with, hey, you know this character you just met? They die. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I don't even know what his name is yet. It was just so frustrating. And then it starts with a campaign mission in the final expansion. Like, it just hops all over the place narratively. You can't keep up with anything. And again, the frustrating part of it is that when you finally figure it out, when you Google it and you read some guide that some person wrote and you watch the narrative for the stuff that they removed 3 or 4 years ago, when you go and do that, you can see, okay, I get it. I get why people like this. It's like Diablo first-person shooter. It's like the narrative is fun because it's sci-fi. If you want to get into it, it's there. If you don't really care, the aesthetic of it is appealing. But I just could not believe how hard they made it to play the game, because I've been playing 14, right. Final Fantasy 14, and that is just like, go nuts, play through however many years at this point of content. They've cut a couple things for time, but for the most part, it's all there. Where here it's like, hey, the basis of the narrative of this game, like the first campaign, the reason everything's happening, not there anymore. Go watch a YouTube video. I'm like, brother, like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. I wonder what's changed since Lightfall, because I started a new game back at Lightfall and I didn't have any. I mean, I skipped through I couldn't give a flying monkey's shit about the story of Destiny. It's completely fucking boring as anything to me. I'm there for the I don't know why I'm there. I'm there because the shooting's good. I think I'm there because the shooting's good and the combat encounters are interesting and stuff like that. But I always found so much of Destiny to be, we are trying to appeal to as many people as possible, and in a way that sort of it lacks anything that I can emotionally get connected to at all. And when it tries to do it, I find it to be embarrassing. Like that's the vibe I've always felt with Destiny's narrative personally. But I'm saying this as someone who also feels that way about Halo. Like, I think Halo's story is fucking terrible. I think like it's like a G.I. Joe. Fuck, I couldn't give a flying fuck about any of this. Yeah. Like, it's a very, post 9/11 religious zealots are bad, American empire saves the world kind of thing, which always irked me. But given the fact that they have, like you said, changed and kind of removed the original intro in many ways. I mean, they did that already once when they didn't want to hire Peter Dinklage to do any more voice acting, and they just recast that whole thing. Yeah, that's a shame. I do remember when I got into it, when Lightfall, I didn't have any trouble figuring out what I was supposed to be doing in terms of the mission structure, but there was a moment because there are moments in that game where you have a lot of like choice as to what you do, and in certain arenas or open world areas or whatever. And I remember in those situations kind of not really being sure what I should do. You were playing with a group, right? Were you all starting at the same time?
Just a buddy of mine. Yeah, we started at around the same time. He'd already done some stuff, but yeah, not enough of it to be so far ahead that we couldn't link up and like do things for the first time. So we were going through some of the content and figuring out like, yeah, you're right, what to do in what order. I think the thing, like, obviously I agree that the story is a little ridiculous, but I wanted to, give it a chance. I wouldn't make I'm not making an objective qualitative, on a statement. What I'm saying is I don't like the story. Yes, what I mean? There are no universalities when it comes to critiquing. But I can get why you wouldn't, like, just knowing the things that you don't seem to enjoy. I can get why you wouldn't be into this, is what I was trying to say. Sorry. But I'm willing to give it a shot and see for myself, because it does seem like the kind of thing I'd be interested in. So like the fact that I couldn't see all that stuff, I couldn't get involved with the narrative because it's out of order, it's missing pieces, it's telling you things are important and you don't know why or who or how because they cut the content. It's like, okay, that's fine, whatever. When I got to the point where my buddy and I were like, okay, we know what's going on, we understand how to play the game now, we were like, we're still missing pieces. Like, there's still bits of the story that are missing. And I'm like, I kind of wish there was a version of Destiny 2 that was like, I could spend $30 on it, and they were like, here's this, just play this. Here's all this content in this order. Play. I know that's not ever how it would work, given the structure they were trying to have with it and the way they were trying to make money with it. So I'm not like bummed about it, but I think some of these live service games, I almost wish there was like some way they could go back in time and be like, man, this 2-year chunk of content, what if we just packaged this and sold it and let people have it?
I had a similar experience. I've only played a little bit of Destiny 2, but a few years ago I fired it up for at least a few hours, and I kind of had that, when you play like World of Warcraft and like Christmas rolls around and like whatever, Iron Forge puts up like all the tinsel and shit, and there's like, this is like our world's Santa Claus. I felt like when I fired up Destiny 2, there was like 8 years of confetti was on the ground, and I was like, I don't know what any of this is in reference to. Like I felt like I was like, I really want to know what this is underneath all of the things that had been added. I just felt like there was it was hard for me to separate what was like, oh, that's like the fun little like add-on, and this is like the base game, and this is like substantial, and this is just like cosmetic fun. Like people have been playing the game for 5 years straight. It's like fun to have like a Christmas party or whatever. I felt like I was like the new guy at the office, and they're like, oh yeah, you remember fucking? Oh well, you weren't there, but it was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like even when you go to Steam right now, if you were to buy it on Steam, like the options to buy this game are at the top. It's play Destiny 2, free to play game, add to library. Then it's Destiny 2 to Final Shape. Select purchasing option. You click on the two of those. $50 for Destiny 2 to Final Shape, and $100 for Destiny 2 to Final Shape, and an annual pass. And then underneath that is buy Destiny 2 Legacy Collection for $70, which it came out in, I guess, earlier this year. I don't know. I played Lightfall, which was 2013. So it looks like the Legacy Collection stuff happened after that. So that's probably, and you mentioned that was maybe what was confusing everything for you. So maybe Lightfall was the smoothest version. I don't know what they've done since. And then there is if you want, you can buy a bundle, which is the PC Cafe Essentials free to play, which looks hilarious. It's 15 items. Dota, this is just Steam serving something up. But if you want to press one button to get Dota 2 commercial license, Destiny 2 commercial license, Warframe Smite, World of Tanks Blitz, Counter-Strike 2, EVE Online, War Thunder, Team Fortress 2, Paladins, World of Warships, and Robocraft, you can do so by clicking a button.
That reads like those websites that are like fake websites where they just list a bunch. They're like Britney Spears, like woman, naked lady, Justin Timberlake, like just listing SEO things.
Torrent,
yeah. That's what that felt like I was listening to.
It did. Yeah, there you go. Destiny 2.
Yeah.
And that's it, right? They're done. Destiny 2 is done, right? That's it.
Yeah, apparently.
I think they're done with
now
Destiny.
it's marathon
I haven't even
time
played it,
at
and
this
I'm
stage.
exhausted by this game. I feel like
A little bit. Yeah. Fucking hell.
You'd fucking hate it.
I feel like I would.
Yeah,
I
you
feel like
hate
it's
it.
like
Yeah.
my kryptonite.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I don't know. Yeah, maybe if people are into robot looking people, they like it more, but I guess maybe I'm not. I don't know. Yeah, marathon coming soon. Hopefully
yeah.
from the good folks at Bungie. Keep your eyes open for the sequel to Marathon Durandar that everyone's been waiting for 30 years. Absolutely wild what's going on up there. I hope that game is good fun. Don't know what it is. Extraction shooter, something like that. Who knows? We'll find out soon enough. Those are the games we played. We do have some emails here, though. Frank Howley. Who we got?
Yeah, we have Luxury Malcolm from our Discord asked us, they wrote and said, I've been playing Digimon World Next Order, a spiritual successor to the 1999 Digimon World, which I loved. Despite some core gameplay similarities, I feel it's missing the magic of the original, despite how buggy and broken the game was. It's not just the nostalgia talking either. There are many narrative and design choices that cause it to not have the same charm. Are there any games that stand out to you where their successors, direct or spiritual, have just never lived up to the same experience?
Any takers? I can think of a couple of ones that come up a lot. Deus Ex is one that comes up a lot. I do like Invisible War, the second one. But there are some mechanical reasons or engine reasons. The same could be said of maybe Thief Deadly Shadows, which is another game that, again, I like, but coming off of Thief 1 and 2, engines just changed. The physicality of first-person shooters changed, or first-person games. Maybe my most obvious one is Cannon Fodder 3, because that was a game that came out like 20 years after Cannon Fodder and was only because whoever owns the Codemasters, I think, owns the naming rights, and there was some bunch of indie developers in Russia who wanted to make a cannon fodder game, so they just let them. And it's like, no, it's not. This ain't it, kids.
I'm struggling to think of any.
I think for me, it's Mafia 3. I think that's the one that I'm like, I was so bummed by, because I was so excited because it's got Lincoln Clay as the main character, who's, as far as I'm aware, one of the only like distinctly half Dominican, half white video game characters ever. So I was like immediately attached to that character. I love the era that it takes place in. I love the music. I love everything about it. And Mafia 2 is like one of my favorite games of all time. I love playing as Vito Scaletta. I love the world of that game in the same way that I love conceptually the idea of Mafia 3's world. But then you play it and it's just like this district hunting, go do 5 missions to unlock the mission that you want to do, and you do the mission and it's just killing guys, and then there's a cutscene and it's just so disappointing. Like, man, I wanted more of the second one, but with me in it, basically.
Right? Yeah. You've also reminded me, when you mentioned all those things, I was like, oh yeah, Dead Rising 3.
Oh,
I was
boy.
like, that was a bad time for everyone. That was those first 2 games were so special, and then 3 was just like, no, you didn't.
Well,
that wasn't the direction of travel.
Frank West is back now, or Frank East from the looks of it. That is not Frank West.
Yeah, why the fuck did they change? Good, Frank East is a great name because he does. Is that because he feels like he's like from Long Island? Well, I guess he to me he feels like a goon now. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because they changed his voice and how he looks. He looks like a weird guy. He doesn't look. He looks like 10 years older, and like his back is bad in the screenshots that I've seen. I don't know.
I actually did think of one. Diablo 3. This is not a spiritual successor. It's a direct sequel. I hate Diablo 3.
Damn.
Diablo 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, and I played Diablo 3 like on console co-op. You know, it was like after work, just fire it up, and it's like thoughtless fun. But it's just like a sad like vapid shell of Diablo 2's former glory.
You're not rocking with the real money marketplace? Come on.
Not only that, they just made like baffling decisions about what to do with the story, and like I won't say who, but they like killed a character that they didn't need to kill just because they were like, what if we like did something with this story? It's like, fuck this sucks. I don't know. It's not a bad game. It's a mediocre action RPG with the name of a far superior game on it. If it wasn't a Diablo game, I would be like, yeah, this is fine, but it is a Diablo game, and so it is bad.
I've got one more bad one that might be the worst, and also I want to do shout out to a really good one, which I feel like we do a lot here because we get a lot of throwback spiritual successors here. Bad one, Mighty Number 9 might be.
Oh man,
might be the cream of the crop there.
That makes you feel worse than an anime fan on prom night, man. That's.
And then a good one, 2 Point Hospital was very, very good, and I know a lot of people who still play it to this day. And Theme Hospital was a really important classic game to a lot of people, and that game did the damn thing. Frank, do you have any?
Yeah, although I feel bad because now Volition's not around anymore, but Saints Row Saints Row the Third was like a bummer.
Oh, you didn't like 4 either?
I liked 4, but 4 was basically just felt like one big DLC expansion, and it was like, oh wait, because it's the same city. It's just, and then I kind of like Agents of Mayhem, even though it wasn't great, but I was like, I enjoyed it. And then the last Saints Row I was so upset by.
Damn.
And so yeah.
There you go. Let's hopefully something that's a little bit more of a cheerier email. We got one. Who's this from?
Mason Addis emailed us. Hey, Noclip, I saw some discussion online about whether optional side quests can drag down the pacing or experience of an otherwise fun game. When I get really into a game, I have a completionist mindset, but sometimes I end up feeling burnt out going through all the side missions. I end up wondering if I have had more fun if I just focus on the main story. Has a desire to reach 100% completion or a few bad side quests ever soured your opinion on a game that you were otherwise enjoying?
Skyrim, no stone unturned quest line.
Oh,
I don't know
really?
if you guys ever did that, like actually did it. There's you have to get the
No.
24 gems
What's
for
that?
the crown of Baron Zia or something. Like, I just looked up the quest list. I just remember doing this quest. When I played Skyrim for the first time, I made it my mission to never fast travel because I wanted to be enveloped in the world. And like, I actually enjoyed it that way. I thought that was gonna suck, but like I had a ton of fun playing it that way until I
Yeah.
did that quest, which requires you to find all of these loosely stored gems that are in these little boxes.
Oh no.
And they're just somewhere. They don't point them out on the map. You got to just find them. And eventually I downloaded a mod to get the locations for all of them, went and got them, and the reward is like the most useless piece of equipment. After I finished that, I was like, okay, I'm fast traveling, and I finished playing the game. I was like, I'm done with Skyrim. Fuck this game.
I'm out. Man, that's a bummer. I completed Tiny Terra's Turbo Trip, which you recommended a couple of weeks back, and that was one where I probably would have played more, but I got the final upgrade for the car as my plane was landing into SFO, and I was like, I'm either gonna say I'm gonna do the side quests and not complete this game and never touch it again, because this was such a distinct airplane 5 hours of a game, or I can just complete the game right now, say I've done it, and wash my hands of it.
Yeah.
And I just decided to do that. So as it was like 20 seconds before I landed, I got the cutscene at the end of the game, and I was like, great! I had a great time with this game. This game was fantastic, a lot of fun.
I'm done. Yeah.
But
Bong.
the story I always tell is, I think I've told in this podcast before, is a friend of Noclip, Dennis Walsh, who completely ruined the second Half-Life expansion, Half-Life 2 chapter, by doing the Noam Chomsky run
dude.
on his first and only go.
Horrible decision.
And horrible decision, and absolutely hated his time with that. Like, hated himself, like knew that this was not the game's fault, but was just like, but also couldn't not, like, he had gone too far. He had to keep, there's a tiny physics object. Physics object is the important part of this, which you can lose, of a gnome that you have to try and like keep with you during that game where you're like driving a car for most of it. And yeah, he just absolutely ruined it for him. So don't do that.
I almost never do side quests for the exact reason that this email references. The only time I will ever touch a side quest is if I encounter a character in a world and I know what they're talking about as a side quest, but I like the character enough that I want to see them happy.
Yeah.
Or if there is like a narrative conceit that I find fascinating, that if I really am like, I got to know what happens with this, I'll do it. Otherwise, I'm like, sorry, I can't help you. People come up to you, they're like, please, my son, he fell in the well. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm very busy right now. Good luck with that. I wish you the best.
Yeah. What about you, Frank?
Yeah, I mean, with me, with like getting achievements, there's been so many times where I just bail on a game because of achievements. One of the earliest ones I remember was like Hitman Blood Money, which I really love that game.
Okay.
But then I remember trying to go for like the achievement, which was like get a professional ranking on every mission. And I remember just like botching a mission and then being so mad I took it to GameStop like the next day and sold it. I was like, I never hate you.
That's awesome.
That's
and then
brutal.
Even recently, I remember, I think this was during quarantine when the Tony Hawk 1 and 2 HD remaster came out, which was phenomenal. I was very much like, I'm gonna get the platinum. And then I think I spent like a week like doing the all gaps stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember just spending hours on like trying to hit one gap, and it was like this. I mean, it was quarantine, so it was the kind of thing where like time really didn't matter. But even then, I hit a point. I was like, this sucks. What am I doing? Like I was like, would listen to like 2 whole podcasts trying to get one single grind on like the downhill jam level, and I'm like, this is like, okay, I surely I can do something better with my time. So I don't know. So that's why like even now I'm just kind of be like. That's why it's been fun playing stuff on Switch or Steam Deck, where it's like Steam achievements don't matter. I don't. It's been nice just kind of ignoring achievements and just playing the game because it's fun. But talking about achievement, I want to pat myself on the back for 1 second and say I beat the Gran Turismo story. I beat the World Circuit mode. So
Well done.
Great job.
Which
The
I did-
cafe has closed. No more missions.
And then they unlocked more cafe stuff because there's free
Wow.
DLC all the time, which is exciting. But I really did like beating Gran Turismo.
Is all their free DLC like car advertising shit?
Yeah, there's like Teslas and stuff
Yeah.
now.
Can I drive the Cybertruck or
They
something?
recalled
like
that
I don't know if
DLC.
It was
They
exploding.
might be adding the Cybertruck, but yeah, there's so
Great.
many new cars in it,
Good stuff.
new tracks, new cafes and stuff.
They have a special mode where the Cybertruck's accelerator gets stuck between a flap of plastic, and you have to
You get trapped inside when the battery dies. You have to try to smash out the bulletproof windows.
Yes, exactly. It's great in VR, I hear. Yeah, good question, Mason. Thanks for that one.
And then last email, and then again, if people do want to send us emails, send us at podcast@noclip.video or write to us in our Patreon Discord in the podcast chat channel. Our last email comes from Logan Johnson, and they wrote to us and asked, what's your favorite meal to make at home, given you have the time and ingredients to make it?
Oh, man.
Cannelloni.
Really good one. What is it?
It's such a pain in the ass, but I love making cannelloni.
Yeah.
What is cannelloni?
See,
it's like the noodle pipe. I don't know how to describe it.
The
If you've
noodle
never had
pipe?
cannelloni before.
Yeah, baby. That's what I call it, too.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like those tubes of noodle that you fill with like ricotta and whatever the hell you want, beef. You put them in a pan, cover them in cheese sauce, and bake it. It's a great Italian dish.
You like a crisp on the top?
Oh,
You like
yeah.
it, like, nice and
I
hard
want to
on
have
top?
to get my knife out and cut it. And
Cut it open.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Wet on the inside.
Let me give you a hot tip.
that wasn't actually meaning that, but okay.
I got a hot recipe tip for people
Hot
out
tip,
there.
huh?
Stop it. Get some mushrooms. Slice them, like bisect. Get some like big white button mushrooms, big as you can find. Slice them into slices. It's going to be a tedious, laborious process, but you dip them in egg, dip them in flour, fry them, and then do basically like a chicken piccata, but with mushrooms because I'm a vegetarian.
Oh, wow.
I mean, chicken piccata is good too, but then you fry them and then make a little angel hair, make a little lemon butter with some capers, and toss it all together, and you got yourself a little feast.
it sounds delicious.
Damn, that's good. I like the implication here that it's the get out clause for me here is that Logan says favorite meal and not like best, because if I had to say best, that would be probably quite embarrassing. But favorite meal, I think my favorite meal to make is like just a killer beans on toast, man.
Oh, yeah.
I just fucking give me some, it's just bachelor's baked beans. I'll chop some like spring onions or a little bit of something in there. Red onion, maybe if I don't have any spring onions. Just some butter and some bread, cheese on top. I'm good. The same logic applies to a baked potato. I like it. Like there's like 4 or 5 different types of baked potato that I used to make all the time in my 20s. I used to love that shit.
Fair.
Because I just have no patience for cooking or skill. Let it be known. This is not just me saying I don't have no patience. I also have no skill, but yeah, a big part of it is just make if it's only 3 or 4 ingredients. And mostly it's just one thing that I'm putting other shit on. I'm not having to like bake, make them meld into something. I'm like, the cooking I can do is, when you're in school and you first learn addition and subtraction, but like most cooking is multiplication and division. I don't fuck with that cooking. I just do the adding and plus and minus. Toast plus beans plus, great, we're good. Don't ask me to fucking make a new type of thing out of other things. That's not in my repertoire.
Yeah, I guess if we're being honest, it's the best meal you can make with time and ingredients is going to be pizza rolls in the air fryer. Like, let's be honest with ourselves,
Bagel bites in the toaster.
Yeah, that's right, baby.
Yeah, exactly. To that end, when I realized about the one thing I think that I can sort of fake it that this was something hard to make, but is actually incredibly easy is like using a wok to make like noodles with an egg with a bunch of fried vegetables with some chicken. You know what I mean? Like a what would you call it?
Stir fry?
Like a stir fry.
Yeah, like a stir
Lo
fry,
mein
basically,
or
like a stir. Yeah, something like that. Because you can get your udon, you can get your angel hair stuff. You can fuck around in that world, make vermicelli. You can sort of like do silly things, and there's kind of no way to fuck it up. Like usually, just keep cooking it and it'll be good. Even if you messed it up, if you just keep cooking it, reduce it down, it'll taste good because it'll be like a little bit charred or whatever. So
yeah,
that's where I'm at. Frank, what about you?
I liked making quesadillas. Same thing with the addition and subtraction cooking.
Yes.
It's just, the tortilla, lots of cheese. I would buy like jarred like red peppers and throw them in there, and then jalapenos and spicy stuff, and it was awesome. So I really liked it. But then probably ate too many of it because it's also just like making a pizza. It's just so much cheese.
Oh, yeah.
But, oh my God, I like making quesadillas.
All right, what's the worst thing all of you have made?
Wait, when you say worst, do you mean that it's bad, or you mean that it's like embarrassing to admit how much you like it?
The second one. No,
okay.
not even how much you like it, but just that you made it.
Okay.
Like what's like the most like like I will never put like if you're putting a dating profile and trying to like impress people.
But please admit it on
what's
this
the
video
opposite?
podcast.
Yeah.
Exactly. Good point.
When I was a kid, I would have slices of bread with barbecue sauce, and I would just dip it in the barbecue.
Oh, that's great.
sauce.
Ooh,
That's very close to my one. So
What's yours?
mine was I used to make things I used to call hot dogs, which is basically just a piece of bread that I would put mustard on and then put a slice of ham in it, and then it gets worse. Roll it up, like fucking roll it up like a carpet or a rug. Put it in the microwave.
Jesus Christ, dude.
It was just heated bread with fucking a slice of ham. Because if I use more than a slice of ham, my mother would fucking murder me. So like one slice of ham and mustard, and that was it. It was a hot dog.
We're having
baby.
hot dogs tonight.
We're eating hot dogs
Damn.
tonight.
Come over. It's just bread.
It's just one slice of ham and mustard.
Where's the
microwave.
dog? You're like, what
That's
do you mean?
the-
It's right there.
ham.
It's right there.
It's right. It's all twisted up in the bread. You know.
Let's take a bite. You'll see. You'll see.
God, I don't know what my answer is for this. I feel like this isn't shitty enough to be a good answer, but it
Okay.
also is. I just make like a bowl of pasta and a can of chili, and you just dump the chili onto the pasta. And
It's almost a bolognese. That's
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. I call it Mexican bolognese.
Hey.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good. I like it. Frank, what about you?
I feel like I have no cooking experience, not enough cooking experience, so I really can't think. Like sometimes I would open up yogurt and then put like cereal in the yogurt because it's like basically
yeah.
when you go to Yogurtland or whatever, you make your yogurt bowls and you cover it in candy and crap. So sometimes I'll just rip open a thing of yogurt and put like Lucky Charms, and it's like, yeah, all right, add some texture.
That's good.
Nice.
I used to open up yogurt and burn hash into it, and then get stoned 5 hours later. That's what I used to do with yogurts. And then 2 hours into it, be like, shit, it's not working, and then put in more, and then 5 hours later, be like, oh no, I did too much of the.
There was an incredibly tense moment there where I was wondering if you meant like hashish or if you meant like corned beef hash, and I was like, "There's no right answers
right.
here. Both of these are like
right.
roads to
Yeah.
hell."
Yeah, like cannabis resin,
Yeah.
basically, was what we used to get in
Scrape
Ireland.
the
Wouldn't
pipe
get
out
weed.
and fucking that's gnarly.
Just a fucking cube of it. It looked like an OXO cube. In fact, I know somebody who got kicked out of the school because they sold somebody an OXO cube sorry, you guys don't call them OXO cubes. Like a chicken stock
Oh, like
cube.
a bouillon cube?
Bouillon cube.
Bouillon. Okay, it's the brand thing again.
Yeah.
It's like sellotape or whatever. Yeah. One of those, and the guy was so angry that he got sold up the river that he ratted on the other guy. He was like, he went to a small criminals court about an illegal thing.
That's so
at
funny.
school.
That's like calling the police and you're like, "Yeah, hello. Yeah, I got some really bad. I was buying drugs and the drugs were bad." And they're like, "Wait, did you say you were buying drugs?" You're like, "I gotta go." And just click the phone down.
This cocaine is not even remotely.
I'm not high. I did it all, and I'm not even high, officer.
Baby powder. I want my money back.
mad.
Man.
Well, Frank, if you want to make a hot dog,
Dope
you
yogurt.
know the recipe now. You know.
Thank you.
All right, that's a podcast, folks. If you want more podcasts to listen to, episode 4 of Dear Dwyery is now live over on our podcast channel. It is also available basically everywhere podcasts are sold. Thank you so much to everyone who's been reviewing the episodes. It makes a big difference to us. The latest episode is all about Pacific Drive, a game that we covered on this podcast months ago. I interviewed one of the designers on it, Alexander Drakut, who was very giving in his conversation, not just about the design of the game, but just we talked about zone games a lot, which was a concept I'd never really thought about before, or zone media, movies like Annihilation or games like Stalker or what was that? What was that
Twilight
trilogy
Zone?
of?
Sorry.
Which?
The Twilight Zone.
No,
I don't know.
The
if that,
Twilight
does that
Zone,
count?
sure, it's a zone.
It's got zone in the
Counts.
Yeah.
What was the name of those indie movies again, Jeremy? The ones that are kind of they're like a zone movie that there's.
Oh,
they're-
Resolution.
Yes, and what's the other one called?
The something. It's got a weird title.
Yeah, I think that they have like those
The Endless.
The Endless, yes, and then the other one Resolution. Is there 2 or 3 of them?
There is a
forget.
third one that feels different to me. I would recommend Resolution and the
Okay.
Endless. There's Synchronic, which I think Synchronic is like someone listened to a Joe Rogan podcast about DMT and they were like, "What if this was a horror movie?" And it's about as good as you'd expect from that description.
Yeah, they're pretty wild. That's awesome. That's the third. Okay, I'll see about that one. But yes, go check that episode out. It is up on the Dear Dwyery feed along with a bunch of other ones. And we got some more coming down the pipe as well. Also coming in the pipe, our documentary on Dredge. We'll be filming it this week. We have a lot of projects we have not talked about publicly. The latest patron show goes into some of them. Although Jeremy, I haven't told him about the one you're working on, and it sounds like that was fantastic. So I can't wait to be able to announce that one. Working on a bunch of stuff. I'm actually going to be on the road for the next 3 weeks. I will still be dialing into the podcast, but I'll be on the road in a sort of a hybrid family trip, but mostly I am filming a bunch of stuff sort of all over the East Coast and the south of the US. So I'm going to be doing a lot of jumping between cities and rental cars and hotels and airplanes and stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. I got a little bit of a taste of it last week when I was bouncing around Europe, so that should be good fun. Yeah, there you go. That's the whole shebang. Any other games you guys are playing or looking to play this week that you didn't pass the threshold of time spent to make this week, or is there anything you're looking forward to later on in the week?
And Bison's in Street Fighter 6. I'm learning.
Yes.
I'm learning. It's so good. Jeremy, you got to play that game, man. Fuck.
I know, Jesse. I do have one question. I know we're wrapping up here, so give me the short version, I guess, for time's sake. Do you find I've never played fighting games like seriously at all? Do you find Sekiro comparable to fighting games, or do you feel like your experience carries over at all?
100%.
Okay, cool. I was curious.
100%. The way you were talking about it,
That's
I was like, this is Street Fighter. When I played Sekiro, I was like, this is Street Fighter. It's just, it's timing, wind-ups, learning how to react, dodging. It's all of that. It's just,
all right, you got to teach me Street Fighter.
Set? Do that. Dude, let's do it. Let's do it.
Go.
6 hours.
That session, 6 hours of Street Fighter. What am I playing? My daughter's on summer break now, and she's gotten way into asking me to do VR, and she's playing Vacation Simulator a bunch now. And she's starting to learn game mechanics, like getting frustrated, but then kind of like, okay, I have to stick with this. I got to do this. Yeah, and she also figured out the button that lets the game register her as taller, because for a long time it was just hard for her to reach things, which was quite cute,
That's
but
so
also
cute.
frustrating.
I'm imagining her like working at like a convenience store and like, yeah, a pack of cigarettes, and she's like, oh,
She was like barely looking over the thing. There was one thing I had to do where like I had to like lift her up in VR so that she could grab something
That's so
and bring
funny,
it back down
dude.
again. It was very silly. And I am trying to complete Tales of Kenzera Zhao as well, because we are interviewing one Abubakar Salim later this week for a Dear Dwyery as well. So yeah, there's plenty to play. Besides that, I think there's one other thing I'm playing. That's under embargo. And then what was the other one? Oh, Fallen Aces I haven't played yet, but you guys talking about last week. And then the Altars. I need to play more of that. I played a chunk of that and I really liked it, so I need to dive into
Like
that.
the demo, or?
Oh, is that what it was? You're right. Is the demo down now, maybe?
I don't know. It's probably still up. I thought you were
Probably
announcing
is.
that we were
Right.
doing something on it just now.
No, I thought it was out. I thought it was, you're right. It was only the demo, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Release date 2000. Yeah, it's coming out 2024. The demo is still up.
Okay, nice.
I guess I just completed that first area and I needed to do more of it. So yeah, but you're right.
I have to finish Shadow of the Erdtree before they make it any easier.
You're right. Yeah, exactly. It's like it's coming. It's on a timer there, and before it's gamer ready.
Gamer accessible.
This is the one time it's gonna happen. So I'm milking it for all it's
Yeah,
worth. Thanks for listening to the podcast, folks. We'll be back next week with 183. Until then, enjoy some games. Enjoy the sun. Play 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim according to Jesse's little printout there, and we'll see you next time. Bye.